This is the Heather Patero Show, where conversation meets calling. Well, hey friends, welcome to the Heather Patero Show. I'm Heather Patero, and today it's just me. Well, it honestly feels kind of perfect for the first episode because this show isn't about being polished or produced to death. It's about conversation, reflection, real life, the stuff we're all thinking about, but don't always say out loud. So if you're creative, curious, faith-minded, or just in a season where you're asking, okay, now what? You're in the right place. So wherever you are in the car, kitchen, you might be walking the dog, thanks for being here. Something I've noticed over the years as an instructor is that most adults especially come in and they say they've always wanted to learn how to sing or how to play piano. And often I get told, if I wish my mother had never let me quit, or I wish I had never quit. Most people just don't abandon who they were meant to be. Sometimes they just get busy or they're just in a season of life, and especially with adults, life gets loud, responsibilities stack up, days blur together, and suddenly the things that once made you feel alive start getting pushed to the edges. You know what I'm talking about? And it's not because you stopped caring, but because everything else felt more urgent. And little by little, creativity becomes optional. Purpose gets postponed. And then joy turns into something that we just get back to. I've spent my whole life around music, teaching, performing, watching it change people. And one thing has always stood out to me, that creativity has nothing to do with age, talent, or personality. It has everything to do with permission. The permission to try something, to speak up, to express what actually is going on inside of you. And that's why creativity, I think, sometimes feels risky. It reveals something very real, and that takes courage. The adults that come to see me many, many times, they are very nervous, of course, their first lesson, because they don't know what to expect. But more than anything, they stopped playing guitar, they stopped singing, they stopped piano, and they are excited. It's kind of like an excited nervous. And it's one of those things that many times in that first lesson, at some point, the light bulb comes on that they have permission to be creative and to feel like they don't know everything in that moment. The light bulb comes on, and after a few lessons, and they get a little bit of technique under their belt, and they're actually singing, and they're actually playing, and they're actually putting it all together. It's just amazing to witness that. So let me ask you something. When was the last time you did something just because it made you feel alive? Not just productive, not to feel impressive or efficient, just alive. And if you have to think about that for a second, that might tell you something. Creativity isn't a hobby. It's how we process life. It's how we make sense of joy, grief, change, faith, questions, growth, just everything. When creativity disappears, we don't suddenly become more responsible or mature. We just become quieter versions of ourselves. And the truth is, most of us don't need more information. We need more expression. And that might look like music or writing or building something or creating something or cooking something. Expression comes in very different avenues and different ways to do that. It's not always artistic. Sometimes it's allowing yourself to just think honestly again, Staying creative isn't about making something perfect or public either. Social media culture, it's always about making sure that we post the right things. And I think it's always been about keeping up with the Joneses, but I think social media culture has made this into a thing where it is so much more public now. But I think being creative is about staying connected to who you really are. The true you, the heart of who you are. And part of that is purpose and knowing our purpose. Purpose doesn't usually arrive with a big announcement. And it's not something that is necessarily a one and done either, because in different seasons of our lives, our purpose can change. It shows up quietly. Sometimes it shows up in nudges or restlessness, ideas that just won't let you go. Have you ever had those at 2 a.m.? I know I have. As a songwriter, I often keep a journal in my nightstand so that in case I have one of those 2 a.m. ideas, I like to call them, I have something to write it down so I don't forget. Purpose grows when you stop asking, what is safe? And we start asking, what is the truth? How do I want to express myself through this? And I think it's directly tied also to our faith. And faith often means moving before everything else makes sense. Not recklessly, of course, but just honestly and authentically, the true heart behind it. If I'm being honest, most of the meaningful things in my life started with the moment of, well, this could go very badly. When you start dating or it starts getting serious, and then you start talking marriage, and then you start talking about having children and buying a house, buying your first car. I can think of several things where, you kind of second guess. But somehow it's those things, when I said those yeses, those small yeses that lead to bigger yeses, of course, those are the very things that have shaped me the most. And not because they were easy, but again, going back to that honesty thing, they were real, they were authentic. All those small yeses leaned into the big purpose, the big yes of who I was meant to be. So here's what I want to leave you with today. It's going to be a short one, but I just want to remind you that you are not late, you are not behind, and you have not missed your moment. If you feel a pull towards something, pay attention to that. Stay creative, not because it's trendy, but because it keeps you alive. Live on purpose. Not because it's dramatic, because it is so fulfilling and it gives our life a direction. Thanks for spending time with me today. I hope that this little episode resonated with you, and if it did, and you know somebody that would benefit from hearing these words of encouragement today, share it with someone. You can connect with me on Facebook and Instagram or visit heatherpatero.com. Until next time, stay creative, live